That's the easiest timeline for them.
Here is a quote from Nikki Collin, Baylor women's basketball coach, on Nancy Lieberman. Nancy has touched so many parts of the basketball world, from her incredible success collegiately and professionally to her coaching at various levels in multiple leagues. She has invested herself in other women and shown them how to follow their dreams and believe anything is possible in sports. And in this, the day 50th anniversary of Title IX, I can't think of many more people than Nancy Lieberman to be a special guest on this show. Nancy, thank you so much for being a part of the show. What does today mean, even though there are still many things that have to get better?
Well, first, thank you for having me on the show. And to Nikki, those very kind words. And I really appreciate everything she's done. But to me, it means that we have come a long way, but I would mention to the next generation not to exhale. We're not there yet. The only way we'll be there is when there's equal pay between men and women, whether it's coaching, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's opportunities. And I know we've grown, and I know we've also been championed by men who have been very instrumental in my life, by the way. I don't have any horror stories, but I will say the Educational Act of 1972 on the 23rd of June by then President Richard Nixon is one of the most important pieces of legislation of the 20th century. I put it right up there with the Equal Pay Act, with women voting rights. You would not know, Nikki, you would not know Jordan Lewis, you would not know Sue Bird, Rapinoe, Serena Williams. You wouldn't know so many of us if there was no Title IX, because we would not have had a platform to display our athletic and then have educational opportunities.
Nancy, you mentioned don't wait to exhale. What do you think the next step is to grow? I know there are certain things that have been kind of added on to Title IX over the years, but for women's sports to take that next big step, what is the next thing that needs to happen?
Well, we need to currently do what you're doing. I mean, you're already a champion of women because you're having me on your show. We need more media coverage. It's still tilted severely in the way of men, but you can see that it's kind of, if you build it, they will come. If you give us opportunity, more people will get a chance to see us. And we just had a huge Title IX celebration at the Basketball Hall of Fame 2 days ago with many of the collegiate coaches, Cheryl Miller, myself. And, you know, even like at ESPN, if they put WNBA games or collegiate games on ABC, there's more eyeballs. The common fan might sit there and go, wow, I didn't realize, you know, these women were that good. But if you tuck us away, you know, for the most part on ESPN2, or, you know, you're putting us, you know, streaming on one of the other platforms, you know, now the serious fan will dig for that, you know, with Baylor. We're going to find where our people are because we're dedicated and loyal. And we have to just continue to have more exposure. People see who we are, what we're all about. And that is one of the steps we have to take towards equality. And as far as pay, I mean, women shouldn't earn 80 cents on the dollar. You know, women of color should not earn between 57 and 68 cents on the dollar. It's unfair, and it reeks of not having any financial equality. But let me just say this, you know, I coached in the NBA with the Sacramento Kings, and I left the Kings when my mom got sick in 2017, and I got hired by Ice Cube, you know, the rapper, the movie star, the entrepreneur who started the Big Three. And one of the things that happened on our first conversation, he says, look, tell your agent you will be the highest paid coach in the Big Three. Now, the Big Three, think about it. It has Dr. J, Gary Payton. It had Clyde Drexler, George Gervin, Rick Mahorn, Rick Barry, Michael Cooper. And he said, you can negotiate some things, but salary will not be one of them. You will be paid exactly what the other coaches in this league are paid. That's amazing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No question about it. And he didn't have to say that, right? I saw an interview with Don Staley, at South Carolina. We know what she's done there, about how she finally one day told her agent to step aside and talk to an attorney about representing her in trying to get a better contract at South Carolina.
Well, she had the vision, she had the strength, and she had the belief. I think it's so important that we look at things like that. You know, we don't want guys to have less. When I was at the hall the other day and we were going through this panel in open forum, and people were like, "Okay, Nancy, you've been through this. What's your horror stories?" I said, "Actually, I don't have any horror stories. Every major job I've ever had in my career, and, I've been around for, 5 decades." I said, Dr. Jarrett gave me a scholarship, first one ever, full scholarship for a woman at Old Dominion University. Then Dave Olmstead paid me $100,000 in 1980 to play for the Dallas Diamonds, here in the first women's pro league, the WBL. ESPN hired me. Norby Williamson, I was there for 28 years. Donnie Nelson hired me with the Dallas Mavericks to be the first head coach of a NBA G League team. Vlade Divac brought me to the Sacramento Kings. Tom Wilson hired me, and Rick Sund hired me to coach in the WNBA. So you guys are so important to us. You're vital to our success. And if you continue to celebrate us and not tolerate us, it changes the equation. And the cool thing is that so many athletes today now have daughters, and they're Title IX dads. They want their daughters to have the same educational and, athletic opportunities in life as their sons have. And you're seeing a big shift, and it's really beautiful that, people like yourself are seeing the value of who we are. And the WNBA took it to another level when they were in the bubble. Think about this. If they vote not to go to the bubble a couple of years ago, the WNBA could have folded forever. And the players said, "No, we have to play." And they went in the bubble. They had their convictions about what they thought was right. And they have become, leaders in equality and in opportunity.
Nancy, when you talk about platforms and exposure and things like that, I think of like Oklahoma softball here recently. Is that an example of something that you could see as given the proper amount of attention and respect and care, that could be a sport, a team, a coach, a group of players that could experience more, get more in return, and also get an audience?
Absolutely. And, the softball championships for years have been down there in Oklahoma, and their program is just unbelievable. And look at the fan base, not only at the collegiate level for women's softball, the Olympic level, when women's softball was there, the stands were packed. I believe the NCAA women's softball at one point rated higher than NHL, so you're seeing, and it just depends on where they put you. If they put you on ESPN, like I said, you're going to get more eyeballs. If they put you on CBS or ABC, you're going to get more of the common fan who really hasn't had a chance to attach themselves to you. And honestly, that happened when I was at Old Dominion, when we won back-to-back national championships in 70, 79, and 80. We were the first women's program in the history of college basketball to play the championship game live on TV. And anything before that was on tape delay. So people around the country saw Old Dominion, and we became like America's team, because people were like, "Wow, you guys are fun. We enjoyed watching you play." So, a cereal is not a cereal until you see it on Saturday morning cartoons, and then the kids are like, "I want that." And we need that, not just because maybe some of the women are beautiful or look fantastic, but talk about how I play. Talk about how I play like a guy, or how I set screens, or how I get my shot off. I mean, the same way, you would talk about, Shedeur Sanders, Deion's son over at Jackson State, and HBCUs are, in the same business as us. They need more exposure to get the right players there. And then you get Deion there, and then all of a sudden You're on the cover of Sports Illustrated. You're getting all these national, people coming down. You're on ESPN. It's almost like minorities being pitted against each other. We're fighting the same fight as HBCUs.
Is now, Nancy, kind of it's kind of an opportune time to finally have some reasonable arguments about media coverage, because before they could say, oh, well, I mean, where are we going to put everybody? If we move you here, where can we put everybody else? Well, now there's a million places you can put the things and move things around to create that equality you're talking about.
Yeah, you're spot on that. And you know what? In the past, and I was at ESPN, like I said, 28 years. I've been with Bally's, Fox, for, 15, 20 years or more. And, what would happen sometimes is they go, okay, we're going to put you on ESPN, but on Sunday. So we're going up against an NFL game. So people are not going to watch women's college basketball. They're going to watch the NFL. So you also have to be mindful of where you're putting us. That's a strategy. We're going to put this show coming out of, Monday Night Football, and then the audience might stay, and then they'll watch one of your favorite TV shows. So this is a definite strategy of when you put us on, where you put us on, instead of just saying, we'll put you on here, but it's a lose because you're going up against, North Carolina and Duke. So, there has to be some changes, and everything's about, how you get rated, who's watching, but just give us the opportunity. I've said this my whole life. When I was playing pro, when I was playing at Old Dominion, come to a game. If you don't like how we play, you don't ever have to come back. If you do like how we play, bring somebody with you, and let's grow this. And we grew it from 500 people a game, to 10,000 people a game at Old Dominion. And just because it was no pressure, not emotional, if you like what you see, come back. If you don't like what you see, that's okay. Thanks for checking us out. And I think if we do more of that, we can grow our sport.
I know you have a battery of a bunch of interviews you're doing on this day, Nancy. I want to let you know one of the things that I have been affected by early on is I went to Stephen F. Austin when Sue Gunner was there. And, of course, a Hall of Fame coach. They had a player named Rosie Walker. They were elite. They were among the top 5 teams in the country, like right there with you. And Wayland Baptist, remember them, and others. And so it's just been something that I've always followed for quite some time. And then covering Baylor for a decade plus, obviously, with what they've done, makes it easier to kind of understand it, in a way that it's kind of in my blood. When you look at the women, you talk about getting more eyeballs. And is that the only way eventually, if they get enough of the eyeballs, enough of the bright lights in the right places, that the equal pay also will then lead to supply and demand, which means more money because more revenue?
Well, we're seeing a big shift with all this. I think people, the NCAA, are trying to get their arms around this NIL thing. We were in the gym the other day. My son TJ, who went to Richmond, now plays professionally. Quite frankly, he's playing for me in the Big Three. And Drew and Matt Timmy were here in Dallas. They're Dallas guys, and they, Drew said to him, I'm going back to Gonzaga. They're paying me, I'm getting paid like $2 million. He goes, I'm going to go, I'm going to get my degree, I'm going to finish strong. But it's different now. And, so many of the women, Paige Beckers is making a ton of money. Caitlin Clark at Iowa is, so except for football. Right now, some of the gymnasts, some people that have incredible followings, this NIL thing is just changing the game a little bit because, it's a different generation, and it's about who's following you, how many people are following you. And old people are going to have to learn to figure this out because these young kids, they're influencers, they're stars, and they have a lot of impact. It's exciting.
Nancy, thank you for what you did, what you've done, also what you're doing as far as today as well. We have Brenda Van Langen on. She's got a documentary that she's putting together She's going to join us at 5 o'clock today. Thanks for your time and also what you're trying to help, again, the 50th anniversary of Title IX and what it means.
Well, thank you for, just your support of everything that you do for us and the history that you shared with me. That's why you admire us, and I appreciate that. And tell my sister, Brenda, she's amazing. Her documentary is going to be phenomenal, and I'm all for her.
No problem. Thank you. Nancy Lieberman, Hall of Famer in many different ways. And when I thought about this, there's 2 or 3 different names. Obviously Billie Jean King, Nancy Lieberman, among some others, but she is pretty much the rock star today on Title IX at 50. And I've been watching some of the chat on this.